and this is the fourth of the LinkedIn Lives I've done. And I'm very fortunate to have my good friend Darren Moss here, who you'll get to know in a second. I need to make sure his name is up there. Well, I'll tell you how you can get in touch with him. That's his information. And you, of course, have gotten to know me if you've been to one of these before. So what I want to do is just give you a little introduction. And here are our names. So today there is no I in entrepreneur. And that's kind of a joking way of saying the ability to partner with someone when building a business is a huge boost to any entrepreneur. So hence, an entrepreneur, just like everybody else, has to be able to work with other people and in very intimate circumstances involving money, involving trust, and so forth. When Darren came to me with this idea and we talked about it a little bit, I was reminded of a conversation I had 3 or 4 years ago with a prospective client who we were talking to him being an entrepreneur. And I was saying, well, I have this group of entrepreneurs and they work together and they've got, separate minds or more minds to think about a problem. He said, yeah, but isn't entrepreneur by definition that you're by yourself, you're solo? And at that point, I realized he would never be a client. But besides that stuck in my mind that there is a mindset out there. So with that said, let me turn it over to Darren so he can quickly introduce himself and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Darren Mass. I am a classic trained engineer in telecommunications and one day had my entrepreneurial spark and decided to start a telecommunications company back in 2007, 2008. Eventually sold that company to a large Fortune 500 and started my endeavors in coaching, consulting, and helping other SMB clients navigate the waters of entrepreneurship as well as business growth. So happy to be here with you, John.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you're here. We always have incredible conversations. So I'm hoping that enough people join us that they can partake. There is a comment box, so please ask us any questions, although we only have half an hour today, but we're happy to continue it later. So my first question to you, Darren, is you had great success in the partnership. You just talked about the success you had. What would have happened had you not had those partners?
I would have had some fairly big struggles and challenges in my own deficiencies. I've realized over the years that not one human being can do it all. And as you're growing a business, the limitation is in a sole practitioner if you don't have partnerships. For me, I was not as business savvy when I first started my company. In fact, the only thing I knew of CEO was how to spell it. Right. I had my vision of what a CEO should be or what it looked like, but I didn't know what a CEO really did. Right. And for the first few years of my business, I was the chief cook and bottle washer. That doesn't make me a CEO. So it was having partners that helped me become who I needed to be for the business and ultimately learn what a CEO should be. Right.
Okay.
I've often said that the CEO does not need to be the smartest person in the room. They need to align themselves with the smartest people in the room. And if you have partners, you can share in the excitement, in all the wins and all the misses. And it's more beneficial, in my opinion, to have someone you align with to grow with you and your business.
So did you, we just were talking about it. These were people you've known for a while. How did it actually happen that you decided they would make good business partners? And had you been thinking about this for a while? Did it just pop up? Or had you actually tried talking to other people about business, partnering with them in a business and decided they weren't the right ones?
So more often than not, we have those moments where we like to answer with what would people want to hear, right? Okay. The reality is you would like to think that it was very planned out, strategic. There was a lot of thought to it, a lot of Venn diagrams and peanut cues, but no. Everything that happened when I had my entrepreneurial spark at 2:19 a.m., waking from a dream, was me emailing my oldest friend and smartest person in the world that I knew and saying, hey, here's my idea. Do you want to help? That's all the thought that was. It just came to me instantaneously, unprovoked, naturally.
I think that's how
my second partner was someone I knew in the industry for quite a bit of time. He worked very hard. I saw him as the most honest and ethical human being I've ever met. fact, I learned a lot from observing how he handled situations. And I had turned to the first partner, my friend, said, there's only one other person I would consider partnering with, and we need this person. I don't know if we'll be successful without this person and reputation. And that's when we decided to reach out to them. That individual's eyes lit up and said, yes, of course, let's do this. And then we went on a very long 10-year journey in success, ultimately, because the three of us gelled.
So it's very interesting. You reminded me of a video from a TED Talk that I love. It's one of my favorite videos of all time about what does it mean to start a major trend or to start a company, anything. It's not about the leader. It's not about the guy who thought of the idea. It's the first follower. And that's basically what you just said, is that by having that first follower who said, I'm with you on this, everything started to build, the momentum came. So
part of being an entrepreneur is getting that pat on the back and that assurance from those that you care about. You're doing the right thing, or this is a good idea. I mean, more often than not, I hate to say it, but people want you to fail in a way. And
so they feel better about themselves, or
I think it's very human. Maybe it's very cultural in this company. We always want, the big celebrity to fall a little bit or watch the train wreck or whatnot. Unfortunately, might be a personality flaw, but 10 out of when I reached out to 10 people about my idea, they all said, no, that'll never work. We're going into a recession. It's 2008. What's wrong with you? Why would you quit your job? Including my very own mother. Right. My father was telling me it's a great idea, but he didn't really have much say in it.
I had the opposite. My mother always loved my ideas. My father, who's a lawyer, no business sense, always poo-pooed every single idea I had. Till his death, he didn't know what I did, quote unquote.
Yeah, so similar. That was me with my mom, and she told me that I must be crazy, but it was that drive that made me want to succeed even further, just to prove her wrong. So it's interesting, but it does feel good when you get that pat on the back. It was my uncle that finally gave me the push by saying, "Listen, if you don't go down this path and run your own business, by the time you turn 30, you're going to regret not making that move. Worst case, you'll get another job, but you have to go down this path." So I needed that assurance. And then by having two great partners early on, they gave me that assurance and that boost as well.
Now, one of the things I noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs, me included, and we're going to get to what we're doing now, where we don't have partners in the traditional sense of the word, and the pluses and minuses of that. But one of the things that interests me is like a marriage, although this doesn't have one component the marriage has, which is the family, the more sexual aspects to it, if you will. It's two people trying to achieve something, but not necessarily a family, building a family. You got to have moments when there are rifts or where you have doubts. But I also suspect, having never actually been an entrepreneur with another partner, I've been hired. I've been a lot of things where I had people I had to work with, but never a partner. There must be some magic sauce that keeps you keeps you going. Or could it also be that you would have had more doubts and more reasons to not continue without a partner?
So from my experience, having nothing but utmost respect and adoration for my two partners is what kept me guided. The partner that we invited last, the one I respected the most, he's someone that I respected as a business owner, as someone who has done it before, as he was older than me, so he was wiser. I looked up to him, and that really kept me grounded. Even when the years went on and we saw more and more successes, my ego increased as well. That's only natural. Right. Not to a maniacal standpoint, but my confidence in my abilities had risen. And even then, his had risen as well in lockstep. So we always maintained that level of respect in that sense. And I knew it was mutual. He saw things in me that he didn't have, right? I was the natural born visionary, and he was my natural born integrator, right? And we played different roles in the organization, filling in each other's strengths and weaknesses. Granted, I was the crazy visionary, and I would have these crazy, big, audacious goals and these ideas and dreams. And he was the one who level set me on them, but I never took offense to the level set. In
Interesting. Interesting. So I get your point of view. Why do you think they partnered with you?
For the same reason. We've actually openly discussed it. In fact, I practice what I preach. For as long as we've ran the company, we had a consultant or a coach. And in a
Mhm.
way, it's therapy. I think it is incredibly important to have an outsider that was successful in some endeavor you're trying to accomplish with your company,
Mhm.
work alongside you like couples therapy. And it's
Mhm.
good. Yes, I'm not going to say our partnership didn't have its share of disagreements, but there was never a disagreement where we hated each other or we sabotaged each other or we wished either party to fail because
Mhm.
we'd be wishing ourselves to fail.
Yeah, right. Of course. Of
Right. So
course.
there was mutual respect. Again, even though I'm the crazy visionary guy and an integrator sometimes doesn't understand that, there was still a level of respect because that crazy visionary was what was bringing the audience to our
Yeah,
organization.
exactly. Yeah, it's the perfect storm when you have all the skill sets, whatever you want to call it, in the leadership. And if that's one person, that's great. It's, it happens. We've got the Jeff Bezoses and the Bill Gates, but even then, if we open up the kimono, we realize they had very strong partners. Tim Cook for Steve Jobs. I'm forgetting his name now. Gates's partner.
Paul Allen.
Palmer.
Yep.
Palmer. So they did have behind the scenes. So they were quasi the visionaries who we know about, and in some cases, like an Elon Musk, they're quite out there in terms of their personalities. And then they had the guy behind them that was basically holding their back and making it work, which is essentially what your story is.
As described in Rocket Fuel, Gino Wickman's book. It's the visionary and the integrator, right? You
Right.
need to have that pairing. And if you get that pairing right, you can grow a company to really big goals and objectives.
Mhm.
And you need that pairing. As a visionary, I'm not the best at leading, managing, and holding people accountable. In
Right.
fact, I'm more like that SNL skit of the computer guy. If you're having a computer guy, I'm like, move, I'll do it. Right.
Right.
But that's not always the best approach. You're not teaching your employees how to be more productive. You're not helping them through that cycle. Right.
Right. So you're very external oriented. You're
Absolutely.
very much the face of the company, which is what a lot of solopreneurs. Now, I've worked a lot with let's move to the solopreneur thing, or entrepreneurs who don't have partners in the model that you have. And what I've discovered, because pretty much everybody I work with doesn't have a business partner in that sense of the word. One is his brother, and his brother works with his brother and so forth. And they have a lot of difficulties, but family businesses are a whole different topic.
Whole different world.
Yeah. That's one reason why they work with me, is because I have this group, Vistage Group. So that means that they've got multiple partners, if you will, to help them. Is it possible, do you think, for someone to go through life, be successful, build a company, make lots of money, not having any significant partners to work with them in that sense of the word?
Yeah.
Formally, if you will.
The answer is definitively yes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
There have been lots of small businesses that have succeeded with a single sole proprietorship or sole
Mm-hmm.
owner. Absolutely. But, while I think and rack my brain, I can't think of a single Fortune X company or
Mm-hmm.
major brand or FANG company or any of those major companies
Mm-hmm.
where it's been one and only one person at the helm. Right.
Yeah, it's
right?
hard to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could look at Facebook. You see Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg would not be where Mark Zuckerberg is right now if it wasn't for a board, advisors, people that helped him run.
I'm terrible with names today. What's the name of his COO? The woman. God, today my name's.
Do not recall. But there's the plight of the integrator right there. Is you don't know what their name is, right?
No, yeah, exactly.
How many people know who
perfect.
Fred Turner is? Not very many people. They might now, but it was Ray Kroc. He was the spotlight. It was Steve Jobs. It wasn't Tim Cook. And everyone knows who Tim Cook is now, right? But it's the person behind the scenes that's truly pulling the strings and orchestrating the organization, which is equally as important as the visionary shouting from the rooftops, hey, look at this product that we have. Look at this service. And that's why, again, back to the point that if you want to grow a company for scale, partnerships or having good people that you trust that work with you alongside you are what get you there.
So what we're
Right?
talking about is the difference between having co-founders, if you will, or in some cases, I have a client who I have two who somebody had founded it and discovered being a solopreneur was not all going to work for them. And so they got these guys who are admittedly more integrators. In one case, definitely the integrator. And then in one case, that founder decided for one reason or the other, was getting squeezed out. Now, my client has a fairly strong personality, and I think the guy just felt he couldn't compete, and so he finally had to part from him. So the founder left. Now that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But again, he started out as a solopreneur and realized quickly he couldn't make it, and then he got somebody on board who kind of steamrolled him, if you will, but in a good way. The company's doing very, very well right now. So.
I have a client where they are a solopreneur. And when I was introduced to them, they immediately welcomed me in. And it was all about the fact that finally this individual has someone that he can share the success stories with, right?
Or not.
Being a solopreneur, and the issues and helping guide through the issues, which is really where I focus. But it is nice to have someone to high five on your same level. And if you're a solopreneur, if your company is doing very well, it's very hard to have those high five moments with employees because they are not at the same level as the business owner. They are not going through 24/7, waking up, writing down ideas, or 24/7 dealing with the pain. There's a very big difference to being an employee and to being the business owner. And that's where, again, partnerships are there to help boost you up, as well as keep you up or lift you up, depending on the situation.
Yeah. Now, let's make a short break. We have a comment from John Asagonde. It's a very insightful conversation. Thank you. We just got a pat on the back.
As we know, there you go. Perhaps he's a partner.
Probably, yeah. Well, Jim, if that's the case, give us a call. Once again, I just want to say I'm John Firth. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, I just wanted to give you my information. Of course, this is not a click and play. You're going to have to write this down. I'll show it also at the end. And then and I think the most important thing is my website, which is my name, because I can never remember people's fancy names for their consulting and coaching company. So I just use mine, johnffirth.com. And here's Darren. And the same thing as well. He would prefer if you send him an email or go to his website. And again, it's essentially his name, kind of. It's Darren.mass, something like that, Darren.mass, but it's Darren in Mass. So we are conscious of the fact that people remember people's names more than they do fancy creative names for coaching and consulting companies. So great. Well, so thank you for those comments. It feels good to hear those. And let's go back now to the other side. I'm just going to get our names up here. I wish I were more proficient at this, so you could see our names. Okay, there we go. So let's look at this flip side. So you sold your company. I left the corporate world. You were about 10 years ahead of me. I left in 53, and when I was 53, you were 41, I think, when you sold your company. And we both have become solopreneurs. Now, there's some advantages to that. And there's some maybe sabotaging going on in the fact that we're not willing to take that jump again. What is it in your case? How does it feel to be a solopreneur? I know that you would like to be a CEO again. I would like to be a CEO again, but I'm not for a variety of reasons. But what is it in your case? How does it feel now compared to when you were building a company with two partners?
I have no one to hold me accountable other than myself. And there are lots of challenges and lots of distractions, especially in this post-pandemic world where we work from home. You're in my home office, right? There's no work-life balance. It's just life these days. And there's plenty of distractions. I have young children. If they want to play, I constantly have in the back of my mind, on the last day of most people that are interviewed, what's their number one regret? It's always they didn't spend enough time with their children. It's
Yeah.
not, I wish I bought this, or I wish I had more money, because you're not taking it with you. It's usually, I wish I spent more time with my kids as they were growing up. And as a solopreneur, as a coach and consultant myself, it's a challenge because those distractions always win, right? I have several businesses now, and one of them I do have a partner, and the daily check-ins are what keeps me engaged, right? Not wanting to let my partner down. The mutual respect between partnerships, those are the things that help me and my personality succeed.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing how easy it is to let myself down and how hard it is to let somebody else down.
That's right. It's embarrassment. It's also there's something called imposter syndrome, and I think I do suffer from it, and I think a lot of successful CEOs in the world suffer from it as well. And for those that don't know, imposter syndrome is essentially when you don't feel you live up to your own hype that other people give you credit for. And in a way,
that's a great definition, by the way.
Thank you. It's empowering, though, right? So for myself, what is a CEO? What am I supposed to look like? How am I supposed to dress? How am I supposed to act? Right? Can I be the CEO? Was what kept me striving to be that vision that I had of a CEO, right? And maybe I fooled people, maybe I didn't, but it was the thing that kept me grounded and guided towards being that CEO. And we just had a question that came in: was it take to be a CEO physically and mentally? It takes a lot of work. It is an exhaustive process, and there's no exception to that. At the end of the day, if you're not willing to be 24/7, 365, flip life and work and make them interchangeable, it's very challenging to succeed in a growth business.
Right.
Your life has to become your company. And when I first met my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, I explained to her, I said, Christy, my company will always come first. If you want this great life, then the company has to come first. And she understood that. So back to partnerships, I had a great partner in my personal relationship as well as my business relationship. And that was, what I can call the true north that guided me and kept me going in the right direction.
So, and that's definitely a word of the wise. I mean, in the old days, people would say behind every great man is a great woman. Now, there are a lot of great women out there who have decided that they don't want to be number two, and rightly so. But your personal life, you have to have a partnership that functions pretty much as a business partner would, with that added dimension that it's more about the family necessarily than the business. Well, I'd like to answer that question too. And I see we have another, lots of them from you, Nori Lee. What makes you successful now? Very quickly, what I want to say about CEO is CEO is not an entrepreneur. Now, we were talking about Myers-Briggs, Darren and I, the other day, and he tests as a CEO, but with a hankering toward, and that's the planning versus not planning. That's interchangeable. So he can be more comfortably being an entrepreneur. I am 100% a consultant CEO, ENTJ, and I've taken the test several times, and it always comes out the same. So to answer your next question, so the CEO has to be able to plan and see ahead and be able to carry a whole bunch of people with them. An entrepreneur has to be fast, wily, agile, resilient. There's a lot of personal work that goes on. I have never worked so hard on my person as I have in the last 8 years. Because quite frankly, when you're working for an organization, even if you're running the organization, but it's not yours, you already have a code of conduct. Everything's sort of been decided of who you're going to be, how you're going to be it. When you're making those decisions, you better well know yourself pretty damn well. So what makes us successful now? Hard work, and Darren may have different hard work, and not letting the voices of doom, the saboteurs that go on my head, get the better of me. And by the way, that took me a while to figure that one out. I don't know. What would you say, Darren?
For me, I've recently changed my definition of success. A lot of people look at success as the things that you have. I look at it as the things you don't have to do anymore.
I like
right?
that.
The burdens or the specific tasks, if you don't want to do something anymore and you can either afford to monetarily or personally or throughout any means, check that off and not have to do it again, then you are successful.
I
It's a good
totally agree.
balance.
And I just realized this is Nori Lee. I didn't know her first name. Nori and I worked together when I was a hired CEO running the trade association for the consulting industry. So hi, Nori. Yeah, I actually talked to Sally a couple of years ago about something during one of my periods of doubts that I was going to do something different than the way I was doing it. I reached out to her. Good to see you. So let's talk really briefly now about the whole question about making ourselves successful as solopreneurs and filling in the holes. So in my case, as I said, I have worked a lot on myself. So the challenge as a hired CEO is hitting your numbers and making everybody else happy. Whether you're happy or not is secondary, but CEOs tend to make a lot of money. And that is definitely the trade-off. And I don't regret one bit that I took. In fact, I was kind of a solopreneur in my 20s, wasn't making any money, did my MBA with this whole purpose of making myself hireable. And I was ambitious enough that I really wanted to be a senior partner in consulting and then be a CEO. And I managed to do all that. And when I'd done that, the bucket list was finished, and I was finished with corporate America. It sort of got to me at the end. So I actually said to myself, you're going to be independent. I said it as in, you're going to stay as an independent as long as you can without bankrupting yourself. And that's exactly what happened. So what did you say to yourself? Or what sort of guiding North Star do you have right now?
It sounds cliche, but I want to impress success upon my children.
Okay.
And I don't mean force them. I want them to see me as a hardworking individual. So, after the sale of my organization, I continued to work for that Fortune 500 company. Didn't take me too long to realize that the corporate structure was a bit too rigid for me. But I always want to make my children proud and have them view me as a hardworking individual, so they can carry those traits onto themselves. It's also, I sold my business at an early age. So, trying to stay relevant is probably one of the most important things that runs through my mind all the time. I'm no longer the CEO of a big company. Right. And that does take its toll on you. And some of these concepts are never spoken about. For someone who sells a business very early, it becomes very lonely. There's very few individuals that can relate. So feeling irrelevant kicks in pretty quickly. So the only way to stave that off is to dive back into what you know and what you love. And what I know and love is in coaching and helping people through their own successes. I find a lot of enjoyment in helping other entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and business owners grow their businesses to the next level.
Yeah. I take a slightly different view of it, but I think yours is probably more positive than mine. Mine is the life of a solopreneur. And as I said, most of my people don't have business partners in that sense. They do have teams and they do have C-suite executives, is making sure they don't make a mistake.
Well, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes. As cliche as this one is, we all learn the most from our mistakes. I can draw from many examples as a new employee in the work world, in the professional work world, where I screwed up. And I happened to have lucked out, had a great boss at the time who gave me the tools and resources and told me, go back out and do it. And I'm here if you need me. But if you don't make mistakes, that growth opportunity is not there. And I see it in my children sometimes. I will let them make mistakes. I'll even tell them, you're going down a road that's probably not going to work out, but I want you to make this mistake. Or I want you to fall off a bike, right? I don't mean that to be mean, right? It's in a controlled environment. I know they're not going to crash and burn, but yes, I want you to fall off your bike when you're learning so you know what it feels like to fall off a bike.
And this is a great ending to our conversation now. And we certainly will do another one, whether it's this topic or another, because I still think there's a lot here, is that whole concept of letting someone fail is a very hard one to do for a couple of reasons. Now, I'll take the example when I was a hired CEO. I definitely, and Nori brings up Sally, I definitely let Sally, if not fail, or let's put it this way, my board was concerned because I never let anybody fail. I was holding on. I myself quasi failed sometimes, but it was never big failures. And that's not good because, again, you end up getting sucked into this vortex of either doing everything, controlling everything, or scared to death that she was going to drop somewhere. And when it does, you blow up and are excited, are upset. Therefore, a partner, I get it, will actually help you, or in some structure that not necessarily is yours or is shared with someone, you are going to have someone who can pick you up, dust you off, and make sure you learn from the mistake. And that I find as a solopreneur is much more difficult because we don't have the objectivity. I know I've made a ton of mistakes. Am I 100% sure that I've learned from them? There's enough gray zones that I have worked in. I can't conclusively tell you what mistakes I made. I can tell you the big ones, but they're pretty obvious stuff, not returning a phone call when I should have, or being, blowing up at somebody. But some of the things where I think I could be more successful, it's more like, should I have? Or if I do this now, it's much more gray when you don't have that partner or a structure on top of you.
Yeah, strategizing in your own mind is not as easy as spitballing with someone else who has the same aligned goals.
Right. And that leads me to my saying for the end of this. I actually wrote an article, and it's part of a model that I use, transformation model, where leadership only begins in the external world. There is no leadership in your head because you're not leading, because you don't have anybody else. Leadership only exists in the external world. So with that, I want to thank you, Darren. As always, fascinating conversation. I always feel like there's 1,000 other things we can discuss. But everybody who's watching or will watch this video, we will probably do something next couple of weeks. Some on this, maybe on this topic, but something else, because Darren certainly has a wealth of information. I always love talking to him. He says he loves talking with me. So I guess this is a partnership that may be working well.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Darren. And I'm just
Thank
going to
you.
put your information up real quickly. More for the video, because when people watch this video, they can actually stop it if they want to write down the information. And then here's Darren's information. And really, I am happy to talk to anybody. I always say the ticker starts going when I tell you it does, but it doesn't start for a while. So I love to talk to people, and that's one of the great things about what I do. So thank you.
Thank you.